If you've ever looked at graphs, you have probably noted some points that deviate from the mean. These are called outliers. The ChatGPT definition of an outlier is something that differs significantly from the average or typical group. There are also some outliers when it comes to successful people. There are a lot of regular successful people that are lawyers, bankers, doctors, but the true outliers are those people we all know that are incredibly successful. Think of Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, LeBron James, Lionel Messi. You get the idea. This is the main point of the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. It is one of the best books I have read this year, and in this video I'll mention the main 3 takeaways I took. One of the main points of the book is that hard work will allow you to achieve pretty much anything, up to an extent. Mark Cuban actually did a podcast and he said this.
You said that becoming a billionaire requires luck.
Yeah.
Can you explain?
Yeah, I mean, there's no business plan where you can just start it and say, yeah, I'm definitely going to be a billionaire. You can, if I had to start all over, could I start a company that made me a millionaire? Yeah, because I know how to sell and I know technology and I've learned enough over the years to do that. Could I make 10 million? Probably. 100 million? I hope so. But a billion, just something good has got to happen.
The timing.
Becoming a millionaire is pure hard work. However, becoming a billionaire does require some luck. Take, for example, someone like Bill Gates. One of the most brilliant minds in the world, worked incredibly hard to build Microsoft. He spent all his free time as a kid coding, and his hard work definitely paid off. This is true for others such as Paul Allen and Steve Jobs. They're all pioneers in the tech industry. Another thing they all have in common that not that many people think about is that they were all born in the mid-1950s, which positioned them perfectly to capitalize on the computer revolution in the 1970s. If you didn't know, in the 1960s, if you wanted to code, you had to manually punch your code onto a card and feed them into a massive computer. If you wanted to debug or test your work, it was extremely slow, manual, and tedious. However, Bill Gates was lucky enough that his high school in Seattle had one of the very first computer terminals in the world. This pretty much meant that he could code on the computer rather than having to write his code on a card. This early exposure definitely gave him a huge head start. Now imagine if Bill Gates had been born in the beginning of the 1900s with no technology to fuel his passion. Or maybe today where it seems that everyone has a computer science degree. Would Bill Gates have been successful? Probably, since he definitely has the work ethic and personality of a visionary. But would he have been a billionaire? That's really hard to say. Point is that to be an outlier, you need more than just your individual effort. You definitely need some luck. Whether that's being born at the right time, in the right place, or having access to resources that others don't. Let's talk about my favorite rule in the book. You've probably heard this, but Malcolm Gladwell argues that to master any skill, you need 10,000 hours of focused practice. This doesn't just mean 10,000 hours of watching basketball videos or tutorials. It's 10,000 hours of actually practicing and doing something. If you do the math, if you work 40 hours a week, that's about 2,080 hours a year, meaning it would take you 5 years to reach mastery level. If you up that to 60 hours a week, it drops to about 3.5 years. And if you go all out and work 80 hours a week, you could reach 10,000 hours in just 2.5 years. I started thinking about how this applies to this YouTube channel, Talk to See. I've been making videos over the past 4 years, and on average, I'd say I probably spend about 5 hours a week working on the channel. That adds up to only 1,040 hours so far after 4 years. But here's the cool part. If you compare my very first video, my first review comes in, to this one, the difference is massive. And I still haven't even come close to 10,000 hours. Now imagine the improvement by the time I reach 10 times the amount of time I have now. The videos are gonna be on another level. I immediately thought of Mr. Beast. He has been making videos for 12 years, and you can see the gradual improvement over the years. He was relentless and sometimes even crazy, spending 24 hours on a single video. Today, there's no doubt he's far beyond the 10,000 hours Gladwell talked about, and it definitely shows in his content. So that's the power of the 10,000 hour rule. To become an outlier, it's not just about talent or ideas. It's about showing up, putting in the work, and letting time do the rest. One of the most surprising lessons from Outliers is how where you come from and what your culture is like can significantly shape your success. Take Joe Flum, for example. He wanted to be a lawyer in New York City in the mid-1950s. The problem with this is that the top law firms in New York worked like a country club. It was full of white males from Ivy League schools. If you didn't fit the mold of these top firms, you would get rejected. And this is what happened to Joe Flum. Joe Flum was Jewish and from a modest family. It wasn't just about your skills, it was about fitting in. At the time, the top law firms focused on mergers and acquisitions. They spent most of their times in a conference room with bankers, and they avoided litigation or anything considered messy. After getting rejected from all these firms, Joe Flum joined a smaller firm that specialized in something that no one wanted to do. It wasn't glamorous, and that's hostile takeovers. A hostile takeover happens when an investor or a group of investors buys a company without the consent of the board of directors. It was very rare back then, no one wanted to do it. But here's a twist. By the 1970s and 1980s, hostile takeovers became one of the hottest areas in the legal world. Suddenly, Joe Flum became the most desired lawyer in New York because he had been mastering this niche for years. So as you can imagine, he made a lot of money. Fast forward to today, and he's one of the few named partners of Skadden, one of the biggest and most prestigious law firms in the world. A disadvantage ended up turning into the biggest advantage of his career. Here we see that your background and a little bit of luck definitely plays a part in you becoming an outlier. So these were my main 3 takeaways from the book, and I'll leave you with a last one. Find work that you find complex, gives you autonomy, and there's a direct connection between effort and reward. Complexity meaning that it keeps you intellectually curious. It's not just doing the same task over and over. Autonomy in the sense that you get to make decisions, and whatever you put in is what you get out at the end. All 3 people we saw had complex tasks, autonomy, and the work they put in paid off tremendously. They found meaningful work. And once you find meaningful work, it becomes a lot easier to put the 10,000 hours in. So that's all I had for today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Comment any other books or videos you want to see in the channel. We drop videos every Wednesday, so we'll see you again next Wednesday. Peace.